everybody, Kevin Weiss, bodyperformance.net, and this is week 9 of the bench press program. So we're 6 weeks out from the competition on August 21st, and things are getting a little bit boring right now. I realize that as we go through the program now, because of my accessory work and everything has been essentially eliminated, besides doing some rehab, prehab type stuff like the pull aparts and stuff like that, which I don't really put into the program. Essentially all you're going to see now is just bench press, and now that I've changed to doing the squat and the deadlift, doing the 3 lift, I also have my deadlift and squat in there. So on this week I had 5 bench press workouts because the bench press is still my main focus. That's what I set out to do at the beginning here, was to go after the national record, and that's still my main focus. But because I've decided to do the 3 lift now, I'm including the exercises and how much I'm doing for those, just to kind of give an idea of how much extra other volume I'm doing for those other exercises. But let's get right into it. This one should be pretty short because there's not much happening as far as variety or anything. There's lots of bench pressing going on. On July 11th, I had the pause bench press, pinkies on the rings still. That's going to be changing relatively soon here, where I'm going to be widening my grip, I believe. Did 130 kilos for 3 reps, and then I did 3 sets of 3 reps with 140 kilos. And that's all I did for that day. So I'm resting probably close to 5 minutes in between these sets. So it's not very exciting as far as, especially to sit here and talk about it, but I'll get through this and try not to drag it on too long. On July 12th, I had my squats on that day as well. I'll be doing 3 squat workouts a week while I'm doing this bench press program is all, and then likely 2 deadlifts, just for clarification. So on my squats, I did sets of 3. I did a 120, a 140, and then I did 3 sets with 160. Then I went back to my pause bench press on this day, pinkies on the rings. Did a set of 4 with 125, and then 2 sets of 4 with 135. On the next day, the 13th, I did my deadlifts, 185 for 2 reps, 5 sets, and then the bench presses, same as the day before, 140 kilos for 2 reps, 5 sets. So all of my, if you probably already are noticing this as we go through my 5 workouts per week for the bench press, my sets and reps are varied every time, but it's always usually around 10, maybe a little bit more, up to 12, maybe a little bit less, down to 8 total reps for the day. And I have a little chart at the end that kind of shows that, if anybody's interested at all besides me. But you see how that every single day, even though I'm doing bench press that many days a week, my training days are different as far as what stimulus you're getting. So on the 14th, I did my squats again, 155 for 2 reps for 5 sets, and then my pause bench presses, 125 for 5 reps and 2 sets. On the 16th, this is when I have what I've been calling my mock meet, if you will, even though I am not down to doing singles yet. That'll probably come in the weeks to come, probably another 2 weeks, I'm thinking. Like I said, I don't have a huge plan always set out in stone that I know exactly what reps I'm going to be using, what weight I'm going to be using. So I have an idea of where it's going, but nothing set in stone. So this week I was still doing doubles. So on my competition squat, 195 for a double. That's what I worked up to. I didn't just start there. Obviously I had some warm-up sets to that. I usually will start around 120 or 125 if I use collars, and then go up 20 kilos a time or something like that. With my competition bench press, now I moved out to the competition grip, which I'm thinking now I'm going to be using in the competition itself. So index fingers on the rings, and I just started with 125, did that for a double, went 135 double, 145 double, and then a 155 for a double. So I was pretty happy with that. That's 10 and a half kilos less than the record that I'm going for, and I handled that fairly easily. So I was happy with how that went. Then I did my deadlifts right at the end, and I'm taking it pretty easy on the deadlifts. I went up to a 215 for a single, and I built up to that as well. I didn't just do that on its own. So now let's start talking about looking at the graphs and talking about intensity. So if you look at day 5 in this last week, or sorry, week 9, and you look at day 1 through day 5, you can see that the average intensity of the day is always varied. It's not flat across the board. So, and that goes the same for what I was saying about my reps, because we'll look at the chart right at the very end, but my average reps are between 12 and 8. So let's say they're settling right around 10. So I might get my 10 reps from 2 sets of 5. I might get it from 5 sets of 2. 3 sets of 3, that gives me 9 reps. 4 sets of 3, that gives me 12 reps. So the average is coming around to that. So you can see that every day the intensity is slightly varied. Now if we look at the weekly intensity, the last 2 weeks were pretty flat, or pretty much the same. They're right around 78 point something, right? And now as we're coming into more of the peaking part, strength phase, the intensity is slowly starting to creep up. So even though some of the days are lower than 80% intensity, I also have some that are closer to 90%. So when we're looking at the average of these, we're just over 81%, and that's about right for this where we're at in the program. That is going to creep up just slightly in the next few weeks as the volume either will remain fairly constant or may even drop a little. I think I said last week that I thought that the volume of this week was actually going to be a little bit higher than it was last week, but I was wrong about that. As we look at the volume here, if we go to the average daily press related volume, it's got a very straight line almost on the way down, because my heaviest work day is day 5, and my lightest on this one just happened to be day 1. So my volume is highest to lowest as we go through that. And I also want to say that there's a little bit of a skew to that when I'm looking at my volume, because some people, when they look at their total volume, they also look at all of their warm-up sets, like everything above maybe 50%. So when you put that into your average intensity and your total volume, it's obviously going to bring the average intensity down, because you're calculating in 50 or 60, 65, all of those. I don't really start even counting my sets until I'm above 75%. So it's going to skew the numbers a little bit. This isn't a completely right down to the numbers system that I'm using here. I'm just showing a general idea of what's going on. So my total weekly press related volume, much lower than it was last week, but had I included all my warm-up sets with it, it probably would have brought it back up to around that same level, or maybe even higher. So take everything that you see with a little bit of a grain of salt. It's not exactly, this is exactly how many reps I did, this is exactly how much volume I did. I only count above 75%, maybe even some of the workouts I've only counted above 80%, depending how heavy I went that day. So for my total press related volume for the week being 7,000, much lower than it was, next week I'm expecting it to be about the same, maybe slightly lower even. As my intensity, I expect to be slightly higher. So this last chart that I looked at, I just made for myself, whether anyone cares or not. I just got to be able to find it here. This will show the sets, reps, and total reps for the day. So you can see how these vary from day to day. On day 1, my reps being 3, my sets being 4, and so my total reps being 12. The very next day, my total reps are the same, but my sets and reps have been switched from 3 reps of 4 sets to 4 reps of 3 sets. Same with the next 2 days. My total reps are still 10, but it's got from 2 sets of 5 and 5 sets of 2. And then on my final day, 2 sets on basically everything, or 2 reps on basically everything for 4 sets for a total of 8. So the total reps for the days, it's coming out to around 10 as far as my work reps. This isn't counting any of my warm-ups or anything like that. So whether anyone's interested or not, I don't know, but it just kind of shows that even though I'm getting around 10 reps per day average, I'm getting there in a different way. So I'm always varying and waiving the intensity and the volume of my work even throughout the workout. So that's pretty much all I got to say for week 9. And come next week, things are going to be getting a little bit heavier again. Soon I'll be going down to probably singles on my mock meet day. So as we go along, you'll see how that starts to evolve as we start to peak. Kevin Weiss from bodyperformance.net. Talk to you again soon.